Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 49th Annual South Brentwood Residents Association meeting. My name is Lauren Cole. I'm this year's president of SBRA. We have a really terrific group of speakers and should have a great meeting tonight. We've got the agenda up in case you missed it at the beginning there. So you can see we're going to start our programming with some administrative things like our elections that we need to get through and a few announcements, and then we will go straight to our speakers. So first of all, Matt, who's our Zoom master, you can take off the agenda, and we've got just a couple of polls to go through. The first one of which is that we want to know how you guys found out about the meeting. So Matt, you can put up our poll. We're doing this so that next year we know where to focus our efforts. So in a minute, we should have a poll pop up. So you can check, everybody can vote on this one. You can check as many categories as you like. So we'll give everybody a little time to record. Okay, Matt, looks like we're getting to the end there. So why don't we, okay, give it just a few more seconds and then we can share the results for anybody who's curious. Okay, I think we can end the poll now. So there we go. So looks like from our emails, terrific, and signs or banners seem to be the two most popular ones. Okay, so we can take that poll down. And then the second poll, we need to elect our board slate at this meeting. So you probably saw in the presentation, so all of the bios were in the presentation and they're also on our website. And we can, so the officers for next year on the slate are myself again, Lauren Cole as president, Elise Arbor, our first vice president and also a previous president, Barbara Roll, second vice president, Elisa Morgenthaler, treasurer and a former president, Armando Pandelo, secretary. Other board members we have are Susan Hirsch, Marilyn Krell, who's also a past president, Chelsea Rana, who's a new board member this year, and Pam Taylor. Matt, let's see. Well, first, may I have a motion to approve the board of directors for next year?
Yes, this is Barbara. I move that we approve the board slate as proposed.
Okay, and may I have a second?
This is Marilyn, and I second that motion.
Okay, so this poll only SBRA members, so that if you've paid dues last year or this year, are the ones who should be voting on this one. Matt, can you put up the poll and let people click? So you can go ahead and vote now if you are a member. Okay, we seem to have a 97% with one abstention. So I think we can end our poll and get to our speakers just a few minutes faster. Thank you, everyone, and congratulations to our new board. In addition to our voting board, we also have advisory board members who assist in our activities. The advisory board for next year will be Michelle Aronson, Daniel Borenstein, Denise Bono, Laurel Davidson, Marina De Pietri Sinico, Albert Wong, Amber Jamal, and Melissa Spagnuolo. Thank you in advance for all the wonderful work you do for SBRA. Just a couple of quick announcements before we get to our speakers. We send out our South Brentwood email newsletters once or twice a month to keep all of you informed in between meetings. I know a lot of you are signed up for it, but if you're not getting them, you can go to our website at www.southbrentwood.org and just click on the big button that says sign up for SBRA's email newsletters, and we will add you to the list. Second announcement, we're always looking for great people who want to do work in the community, as little or as much as you want. We're happy to talk to you, put you on our advisory board, so you can email us at info@southbrentwood.org and let us know what you're interested in. And then the last announcement I have is I'm going to talk about SBRA memberships. We are all volunteers, but we do have expenses like bringing you this meeting, all the wonderful signs that you saw, or MailChimp hosting with all the emails. We're also thinking about trying to do a community event this year. So your paid memberships support all of those activities. We have really reasonable dues levels. $40 per household for a year, $25 for senior 65 plus, and $100 if you'd like to become a benefactor. So you can go to www.southbrentwood.org and then click at the button on the top, Join Donate, and you can pay by Zelle, credit card, PayPal, or mail in a check. And we have an extra added incentive. If you sign up by November 1st, you will be entered into a drawing to get free gift cards from our generous sponsors. And those gift cards are enough to cover all or part of the cost of your annual membership. So this year, the businesses that have been nice enough to give us gift cards that we're going to gift out to people. The Senti Foods has given us 4 $25 gift cards. Coral Tree Cafe has given us 4 $25 gift cards. Cafe Lux has given us 2 $25 gift cards. And these are the ones that will more than pay for your membership. Voltaire has given us 2 $50 gift cards. So again, join by November 1st and you will get entered into a drawing to win one of the gift cards. Okay, so now if you would like to do, to send in a question for any of the speakers, we got some questions beforehand, but if you're listening, we will have the first part of, for each speaker, we have some questions for them, and then we will do Q&A, which another one of our board members, Elisa Morgenthaler, will handle. So if you'd like to send in any questions, you can email them at any time to info@southbrentwood.org. And we'll have a few minutes at the end to ask questions. We'll also collect up any questions that don't get asked in the meeting, and we'll send it off to the various representatives. So one final thank you before we get to the first speaker. Thank you to SBRA's Annual General Meeting Committee for putting this together, Pam Taylor, Marilyn Krell, Susan Hirsch, Barbara Roll, and Chelsea Rana, and to board members and advisory board members, Elise Arbor, Armando Pandolo, Marina De Pietri-Sinico, Daniel Bornstein, Elisa Morgenthaler, and Amber Jamal, and to Laurel Davidson for their help. Okay, so now we're done with the administrative stuff, so we can get to our first speaker. So our first speaker will be Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. So Matt, if you can spotlight her. There we go.
Hi.
Hi.
Congratulations to you and to the new board on your election. And I will say I would agree with the survey. Obviously I get your emails, but your signs have been very effective. Lots of people in the neighborhood have been saying, you know, I see you're coming to our meetings, so I'm excited to see you there. So good work to you and to your leadership.
Oh, and we're thrilled to have you at the meeting. So what I'm going to do is I will try to get off screen while you're answering, but what I'll try to do is ask a question and then I'll pop off and then I'll pop back in. But I'll try to give you a chance to sort of go through and answer. And then Elisa will ask any follow-up questions. So we'll have, you know, we'll get through whatever we get through in the 15 minutes, and then Elisa will do about 5 minutes.
I'll follow your lead, whatever you want.
Okay, so the first question that we've got, this is a big one for the neighborhood, homelessness. So, you know, we're all concerned about seeing the same unhoused individuals continually return to the streets. We're aware that many of the people who keep returning now are often are not mentally as well, and that they keep coming back, and then some of them are violent, like the people, we know that there was a stabbing at Whole Foods. The previous agency, LASA, we know that the county and the city have stopped using them and are disbanding them, and that the county is creating a new agency to handle homelessness. So wanted to understand from you how this new agency will be different, why you decided to, you know, to create it, and how will it be more effective than LASA is.
Absolutely. Well, I spent 2 years on the LASA Commission, so I saw firsthand just how broken it was. And I will say, if you think about how LASA came to be in the first place, resolving a court decision from before the turn of the century, we certainly face a different reality now. There are different challenges. And so it was never really designed to do the work that we need it to do now, which is why shortly after I led creating an audit of LASA, which revealed what they were and more importantly, what they weren't doing with our funds and everything else, we then moved to create a consolidated department in the county. And that was in part based on my experience from LASA, but also based on my experience from the voters who passed Measure A to invest resources in the issue of homelessness, and most importantly, called for accountability on how those dollars are used. I took that message to heart because the county, on our side, 14 different departments right now touch the issue of homelessness. So for my part, it doesn't make any sense. We have to make it make sense for the people who are trying to access it to help their neighbors or for themselves, for service providers and everyone who's involved. And so we, as a county, have withdrawn. We've begun the process of withdrawing the dollars that have come from the ballot measure, previously Measure H and now Measure A. The county funds will come back to the county department. The city is still determining what they will do. But the county is investing those dollars in our new department, as you identified. That new department is led by Director Sarah Mahan, who comes from a county department. She was inside the Department of Health Services, where the program called Housing for Health was housed. And that program has the most successful track record of any program in the entire county, getting people housed off the streets and wrapped in services so they don't cycle exactly as you described, but instead stay permanently off the streets. It's a program that's been around for longer than a decade, and now we are scaling it to match the scale of the problems that we see in our neighborhoods. And it focuses on how we bring service into getting people off the streets. It's not enough to just put them in housing. I know that people have heard about housing first, and we want to make sure that people get off the streets, but it's not just enough to put them in a bed somewhere. We have to make sure that they're getting those services. Another thing that we did to ensure that, we brought forward a motion to create a new centralized agency called the Emergency Centralized Response Center. It streamlines how we respond to calls for homelessness. The ECRC has every department in the county, the city, and every agency that touches homelessness, including law enforcement, at the table in the same room, triaging calls as they come in, identifying where beds are available, which services are being used to help meet whatever needs come in from that call. And I know it sounds like a very basic thing, perhaps should have been done long time ago, but it is being done now. We passed that motion last summer. It was up and running by the end of last year, and actually served people from the fires that happened earlier this year. So we have new systems that are up and running. We will be launching in full the new Department of Homeless Services and Housing in the county starting January 1st, and consolidating the work across the departments and from LASA across over the next 6 months after that. So we welcome your feedback. I don't expect to get it right on the first try. We are taking a lot of lessons learned both from Housing for Health and from the Auditor Controller's Office on financial best practices, so you know how your dollars are being spent and to what outcome, because that is the number one issue we've been hearing from residents, to make sure there's trust.
Right. So one follow-up question. So in the past, or up until now, I should say, when we get calls about there's an encampment back at Wilshire and Westgate, we call the council office. Is that still what we should be doing? Are you guys more involved with outreach to the the actual unhoused people, or is there going to be should we be calling the county instead?
You can call either one. In the city is the lead on homeless encampment resolution, but Councilmember Yaroslavsky and I speak regularly. We're seatmates at Metro, so we were talking about this very issue today. And we want to make sure that, in my ideal world, we don't need LASA for the city and county to be working together. Ideally, this is something that ultimately comes into the county, but right now the city is the lead agency on all calls for service in the city. So I would encourage you to continue calling, but of course you can also call our office and ask for Jonah, and he will help.
Great. Then I wanted to ask a sort of related question that we've been getting some calls about. Can you explain what's going on? I know there's a proposed homeless shelter at Federal and Wilshire in the current Armory building. So if you could let us know what the status is, what's happening there, what your position is on it, who might be there. The concern, the main concern from the community is would that increase crime in the area? or if not, how not, how not. So, yeah, if you could talk about that, that would be great. I will.
Of course.
Right here.
This is a project that we inherited. The West LA Armory Bridge Housing Project is a partnership between LA County, the California National Guard, and the people concerned, and it is a portion of the West LA National Guard Armory. It's proposed to be 167 beds, a 3-story interim housing facility. The West Side, as we know, is in short supply of interim housing and supportive services. We actually ran into that issue today as there was an inside safe operation in partnership with the county on Cotner. The availability of beds to get people off the streets is a critical component to being able to resolve encampments and address these issues. The project was introduced in 2018. The board approved it before my time in 2022. They designated $48 million in county and federal ARP funding. We know that the federal and state legislation passed in 2019 to authorize the property's use for homelessness services, and the county is allocating additional funding to support the safe landing model at the Armory. On-site staff are proposed to provide case management, mental health and substance use counseling and support, occupational therapy, and on-site medical care as needed for each resident who might be there. Qualified staff will provide on-site clinical interventions for high acuity clients. Safety measures include security, performing hourly perimeter checks, access points that are controlled, exterior lighting for safety, and other measures. Safety and engagement specialists will help prevent loitering and ensure safety around the facility perimeter. And up to 30 staff are on site during peak hours. Case managers and mental health staff support clients at a 20-to-1 ratio. That is what is currently part of the proposal for this project. Of course, we always believe that there should be more enough community engagement to answer your questions, and so that we can address as many concerns as you might have around the project, to make sure that we are serving the needs of the community, serving the needs that we know exist as it relates to homelessness and the need for these kinds of critical services on the West Side.
So is this project definitely happening? Is it in the proposal? Like, what's sort of the timing of either more hearings or it's approved and this is when it might open?
So our records that we inherited show that the project was introduced in 2018 and it was approved by the board in 2022. The reason that it has delayed in moving forward has been gaps in funding. And of course, as a project languishes like this, it's incredibly frustrating for me coming in, and I'm sure it's frustrating for you, as new neighbors move in, or, a conversation that I can barely remember what I did last week, let alone what I did in 2018. So to know that there was probably a process that led up to that decision in 2018, feels in many ways forever ago. So that's why I'm saying I want to make sure that we continue the conversation, that we are addressing any concerns, that we are mindful of what you are concerned about in terms of impacts, and that we set everyone up to succeed in this project as it's proposed.
Mm-hmm. And is it, one question came up about, has it been determined or is it federal land or is it state land? And then if it's VA land, is there like another process or more potential holdups?
So this is it required federal and state legislation, and that legislation was passed in 2019 to authorize the property's use for homelessness services. Again, I'm sure that's probably news to some people, even though according to county records, it sounds like old news. But I think for all of us, even though there were approvals that happened a number of years ago, again, my commitment with my office is to make sure that however this project moves forward, that it is something that we're all working together to make a success, and not be something that harms anyone's neighborhood.
Terrific. Let's move on. I know we have limited time to a different topic. So the county declared a state of emergency over the immigration raids, I know, last week. Can you explain a little more what that means, what happens after there's a state of emergency declared, and how it impact both tenants and landlords, if it's just about rentals or is it about other things as well?
So I appreciate you highlighting that because I know a lot of the news reports conflated the two. Actually, a state of emergency doesn't necessarily have anything to do with rent or with housing. It's simply declaring that, first of all, uh, a situation is so beyond the scope of the county itself that we need to call in for assistance from outside partners. In this case, our local cities and the state to address, what we have been seeing in our neighborhoods as a result of the federal government targeting many of our community members. And I have heard from some of your neighbors just about their concern about the raids that have happened in West LA and what is happening to people who are workers at some of your favorite local businesses and help support things that happen in your daily life. So a state of emergency allows us to do a couple of things. Call in for assistance from other levels of government. It allows us to also just move faster in the county. And so in this case, the county board had already previously authorized a fund. It started at the beginning of the year in February with $10 million for wildfire victims and making sure that they had funding for rental assistance and also property owners to be able to rehabilitate buildings that might have been smoke damaged or otherwise impaired for people to be able to live in. And we expanded the availability of those dollars to those who have been targeted by the ICE raids. So we are coming at the housing component from a rental assistance perspective because we have learned from COVID that rather than moratoria, that one of the most effective tools we can do is invest in the housing that people are already in so we don't add to the homelessness crisis. We don't have people falling out of the housing industry to make sure that there's available housing. But what it also allows us to do is get those dollars out faster. So we can reallocate staff to make sure that that happens. We can make sure that we're working with our relevant services, including legal aid that we have already invested in to make sure that those dollars are getting to the people they're intended to reach. But if the county were to consider a rent moratorium, which I know has been in the headlines but has not been part of any of our current legislation to date, we would have to bring forward a new motion to consider this state of emergency is not a rent moratorium or an eviction moratorium.
Terrific. Okay, and then I have one more question. We're actually seeing whether, I know Ben Allen's in transit, so we're trying to track him down.
All right, I'll tap dance.
Yeah, no, but it's fine because we have plenty of questions for you. So I'll ask one
Good.
more question and then I'll hand it over to Elisa to see what's come in, if we've got more questions coming in. So you're on the board of Metro, which we're very
Yes.
happy about. So one of the big projects around here is Sepulveda Transit Corridor, which for anybody on the call who doesn't know, this will be either heavy rail or monorail through the Sepulveda Pass to get people from the Valley to UCLA and on to West LA. Question, so where does it stand? What's the temperature of the Metro board, do you think? We support, the SBRA board has supported the subway alternatives because we want to get as many people as possible on that line, and those are the two that had by far higher projected ridership, shorter times. Between the two, we supported the one in the Valley took away fewer homes. But where, if you're to the extent you're allowed to talk about it, because I know it's not a finished project, what's the status, timing, and just general, do you think something like this could happen?
Yes, I do. And I hope that it does. I've been advocating for it and I'm excited about the project. The draft EIR has been out in the public and we've received comment. We expect the next step with the draft EIR to come back in the first quarter of next year. I agree with you, given that there has been public engagement and public comment on the draft EIR. You would expect normally with a project like this this to be hearing more. Although I will say this project is unlike any project that has ever happened in Metro history, and had in fact its own LPA process that how we are proceeding with considering the different options is unique to this project. It was designed specifically for this project. So there's a lot in there that is sort of unusual. And because of the magnitude of the project, Metro staff worked really hard to try and condense the content so that way it was easier for everyone to consume, so it wasn't so technical in nature that people couldn't really understand all of the aspects of the draft EIR. That being said, I believe I couldn't tell you a temperature on my colleagues. People are very mum on this project, but I will say I have been listening closely to communities. I have a sense that there is a coalescence around routes 5 and 6 in a lot of communities, whether it's a neighborhood council or resident association or COGS or what have you. Those are the alignments we've been hearing a lot of support for, though I absolutely acknowledge that there is also support for some of the monorail lines. I know the Getty has been advocating for that. They want to have a stop. And so there are a lot of community leaders and organizations that are participating in the comment period right now. And so I'm listening to everyone, but I hear you. I also want to make sure that there's a stop at UCLA and that we are making sure that this once in a lifetime kind of project that could transform our region is done in the right way, that we're serving all the people who we actually want to get onto rail.
Okay, terrific. I'm going to hand it over to Elisa now to see if there's questions that have come in.
Okay.
And thank you. And I'll let Elisa finish thanking you.
I have not received any questions for the supervisor.
Do you want to ask?
I'm going to remind everybody to email any questions to me at info@southbrentwood.org.
Okay, I can ask one more. Transit.
I can, if you want, I could also add, Metro has hired its own chief of police. His name is Bill Scott. He is going to be leading our safety department inside Metro. He comes to us from San Francisco. Most recently, though, he is originally from the Valley, so he understands Los Angeles quite well. And I know that safety is a critical component to, not only do we need regional connectivity, we also need it to be safe for people to ride it. And so I just want to make sure that people know we are going to have our own chief of police. We are standing up our own safety department as well.
Great. So I think what we'll do now, because we're about at time, and I don't know if Ben Allen is on, but we do have our senior, we'll just do the agenda a little bit out of order and start with Senior Lead Officer Matt Kerr. But before I get to that, we want to thank you so much for all of your support and for showing up to the meeting and for always being there when we've reached out on questions. And I know how hard you're working to help our area. And we're not, fortunately, directly on South Brentwood impacted as much by the fires, but I know how much work it's been this year. I guess another full-time job.
I appreciate that. I had friends on Dorothy I was texting with as the fires were happening, and we were watching that line of evacuation. And so I'm glad to know that many of your neighbors were safe, and I'm so sorry for all of those who have been impacted by the fires. We will continue to work our hearts out for you. Mandy is also listening and available to help support your neighborhood, and we just thank you for the opportunity to be able to be of service.
Terrific. And I think Mandy's going to be on for anybody. At the end of the call, we'll have general Q&A, and I think she'll be around. She thought she could be around to cover. I know you have another event to get to. Okay, I have a note here. Ben will be on in a couple of minutes.
I did, a question just came in.
I will sign off here. I'll move myself. So Matt, you want to highlight Elisa for a sec? There we go.
Actually, I'm not sure if this is for the supervisor or for Senator Ben Allen. The questioner is asking about some new transportation types that are being introduced for the 2028 Olympics and the 2026 World Cup. The question talks about vertiports and asking if that if those types of if this type of transportation measures will be integrated in Brentwood and the other communities in the supervisor's district.
Oh, well, I'm happy to get with Metro to see if that's something that is coming specifically to the district. I know that we're looking at a lot of different interventions to help move people around the region. We were just getting briefed today on the status of some of our bus requests because we know we have projected how many buses we're going to need for the region. We aren't there yet, but our CEO has been working with all of our regional partners to identify buses and the drivers to drive them to help us get people around the region. We're working on also on our capital projects, but specific to vertiports, I don't know of any that are proposed to be staged in the district just yet. But I will see if that's something that is contemplated, whether through Metro or through LA 28.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I will let you go, and then I'll just, I'm just waiting. Ben Allen's, Sophia, is Ben available, or should we go to Matt Kirk? If you just send me a quick chat, and hopefully Matt Kirk is, I know he's hopefully on. I'm gonna just double checking. Do we have them in the waiting room? Okay. Why don't we, I guess we'll just go ahead and go through the crime report. I'm just a little concerned because I know that Senator Allen had limited time. So, let's see. Okay, he should be on now. So, let's see, Matt Del Chico is working our Zoom. Can you find him and put him on?
Am I on, Lauren, or?
I don't see you on screen, so we need you to be spotlighted. Are you on under your name or somebody
Yeah,
else?
I can see myself on the screen, but I don't know. I'm not highlighted.
Okay, Matt Del Chico, can you put the senator on? If not,
Oh, that was me, Matt Kirk.
oh, that's you, Matt Kirk. Sorry.
Sorry, I'll
Okay, well,
Sorry, he should be, there might be some Zoom difficulties, so
what
um,
name is he on under?
he should be under his own name, I believe.
I have an Ishan Allen. That's not it? He is not showing up, Sophia, so I know he has limited time. Is he definitely on? I'm sorry to hold everybody up, but I know he only had like, you know, how long is he available? Could I start with?
Yeah, I'm just texted him to make sure there are no issues.
Okay,
Apologies, everyone.
that's fine. We're thrilled to have him, so want to make sure he's able to get in. Yeah, because I can check attendees and I'm not seeing them either.
Okay, I think we got it to work, so
Okay, what name is he under? His own?
yes.
Okay, don't see him yet.
Mm,
He can see us. Okay, sorry, we just can't, he's not showing up.
Lauren, I think that Senator Allen is having connection problems. If Amanda, if you can ask Mr. Allen just to re-sign up.
Yeah, if he can sign in again, then we'll go to. Matt.
Okay, yeah, I will have him,
He's asking.
I'll have him re-sign in right now.
We can also perhaps Matt,
So we'll have Officer Kirk.
send him a link as well.
Yeah, okay, so let's, sorry, so we'll get back to Senator Allen and, okay, can we put, Officer Kirk on screen?
All right. Good evening, everyone. Lauren, I don't know if you want to put up the map really quick, one of the slides. They're
Yeah,
just two different slides. One's from January 1st, 2024 to October 20th, and that's comparing the second map, which is both the crime stats on there are the same crime stats. It's just showing a map. It's hard to tell the differentiation because there's similar patterns of the crimes, but the crime numbers were down in every category except for stolen vehicles and burglary theft from motor vehicles are the two things we're up, not only in South Brentwood, but Brentwood as a whole. The exact same two categories are up in those two categories. I know most people, I'll just jump right in with concerns regarding the homicide that occurred on San Vicente on July 22nd. They did make an arrest of the suspect, and then it went to court, and the judge reviewing all the information with regards to the investigations that the officers on scene did, the evidence, and they deemed that the suspect was acting in self-defense. When the stabbing occurred, he used a screwdriver, they said, to defend himself, and in doing so, unfortunately, the person passed away from the injuries, but the judge deemed it a case of self-defense, so it was thrown out of court. I know a lot of people, when I said that, were upset, but that's the way the judge determined it due to the facts presented to him with the case. So that person was released due to the evidence that it was self-defense. I know the other concern, we had a robbery on October 9th where I know it was on the news. It was a gray Honda Accord. There was 4 people, a driver, 3 suspects. They had done burglaries in West LA. They did the robbery on San Vicente. They did a robbery on Santa Monica Boulevard at a gas station. They did burglary in Culver City, a burglary in Hollywood. They were out on a crime spree, and the suspects, 2 of the 4 suspects have been arrested due to, with the help of flock cameras and video evidence. There was one of the burglaries in Culver City. Residents on the street actually videotaped the suspects running out of the house after a burglary. So they were able to identify one of the people, and with the arrest of him, they were able to catch a second person. So the good news is that 2 of the suspects on the robbery that happened on San Vicente, where they pushed the person down and removed their watch off their wrist, 2 of those guys have been arrested. Robbery homicide is still trying to make an arrest on the driver and the other third person that was involved in it. So that's good news on that street robbery that happened on San Vicente on October 9th. 2 of the 4 suspects have been arrested. So with South Brentwood, the biggest issues, even though we're down right now, is a lot of stuff with regards to mail theft, because they're apartment and condo buildings. A lot of times the big thing, especially with the holidays coming up, is the mail theft. And some of these guys are getting the postal key to open up the mailbox, the whole bank of mailboxes, and go through there. And many of those times they're looking to do identity theft with getting people's credit cards and that stuff. Also, their big thing is the package theft. So if you live in a building, the best way to combat that obviously is to get those packages as soon as they get delivered, because many of the buildings from the sidewalk, you could see through the door into the lobby, and I've seen numerous buildings where you see piles of Amazon boxes. So if you live in a building with an HOA or it's an apartment building, you can buy these metal lock boxes where the delivery people have access during certain times of the day where they could drop off the packages and they're locked in a box. Or better yet, if you could have a closet that's lockable in the lobby area, so all the packages can get delivered there. That's a big benefit. Another thing with the package deliveries, on when I've done security assessments on buildings, what I do notice and have seen on numerous occasions is on the bottom of the security call box, a lot of these delivery drivers, if they get the access code to unlock the door, what they do to help them get through next time without buzzing somebody, they'll write the code to buzz in on the bottom of the lockbox. So I encourage everybody that lives in a building that does have a lockbox, glance under there and make sure there's not an access code written down there. And if there is, either change the code or at least erase it off the bottom, because those are a lot of things that become issues with the buildings. Another issue is people are concerned with the unhoused loitering and hanging out in the carports behind the apartment and condo buildings that have alley access. And a lot of times when I go through and check those buildings, what I notice is the water faucets are accessible, so the unhoused can use the water faucet if they don't have a lock on them. And an even bigger thing is electrical outlets in the carports are unsecured, so they're able to plug their phones in and then they sit there and charge their phones. So those make it look more attractive for the unhoused to kind of camp out and hang out in those carports. So those are kind of little things with regards to buildings that I noticed in the past year. The other thing is residential burglaries. If you have a balcony that is even possibly accessed from climbing up a tree or climbing up on the balcony, make sure that you have, if you have an alarm on your thing, that has glass breakage sensors, because they're smashing the sliders and going into the condos, taking what they want and jumping back out and getting in their car and leaving. So try and limit access to the building, whether it's trimming back trees so they can't climb a tree and get on the property. And the other thing is not leaving valuable bicycles that can be seen from the second story balcony, because bicycle theft, especially electric bikes, are a big problem, especially in subterranean garages. If they're locked with some inexpensive lock, they're looking through the subterranean garages and hitting those and stealing those electric bikes. And some of those bikes are $2,000 to $3,000. So if you do have an electric bike, I would suggest, if possible, bring it in the house and keep it inside your condo or apartment just to be safe. So I could talk forever. I don't know, probably people would rather ask questions. If that's where we want to go, I'm good at answering questions.
Yeah, let me, sorry, I'm just trying to get myself, let's just move straight to Elisa. Do you, maybe, Matt?
One question came in, Matt, we just had a question about enforcing the parking restrictions on Sunday near the farmer's market. Is that something that is in?
Yeah, is it? Yeah, what I would do with that, because I would probably contact DOT. Are they parking in the red? Because usually on Sundays I'm off, but I don't know what the parking situation is. Are they parking in the red, double parking? Because I could get DOT to be out there on Sundays to do ticket enforcement in that area.
I guess they're parking in the there's no parking areas set up, and they're parking in those areas.
Yeah,
Okay.
the north side of San Vicente is no parking on Sundays, but it's not always enforced. But
They're mentioning just south of Montana to Gorham and south of there.
okay.
Okay. I'll put a note of that to contact. I'll get a hold of DOT. And the hours of farmers market are 7 a.m. It's early morning till about 2 in the afternoon.
I believe it's 9 a.m. for people, and they set up a little earlier.
Okay.
I believe it goes to 1 or 2 p.m.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate. And we have Senator Allen now, so I'm not trying to cut you short.
No, I'll be here till the end if there's more questions. No problem.
Okay, great. So you'll be on
Yes.
in case people have more. Terrific. So,
Yep.
Go ahead and call up Senator Allen.
Hey, everybody.
Not,
Nice to see you.
yeah,
Can you hear me?
I'm not seeing you yet. Matt Del Chico, do you have him up? He found you, so we know
You
you're
found
there.
me. Okay, excellent.
So,
Oh,
um,
wait. Thanks, Sam. Thank you.
let's see. So Matt Del Chico, can we get there we go. Terrific. Thank you so much for, well, we're thrilled to have you, and I know that you're in transit and we can see the car in the background. It's a little scary looking from this.
Yes, no, and I apologize for the yeah, just I'm going between various events, so apologize for being in transit, but I'm happy to be here with you.
No, we're thrilled to have you. We know you've been a big supporter, and um, we're thrilled that you're our state senator and know that you're termed out, and we'll get to in a minute. Whoops, we lost the video there. But we want to, thank you for all the work you've done for the area, and also thank you. Later on, we're going to have somebody from Streets LA talking about the Sam Vicente Median Greening Project, which
Yes.
office funded. So we want to thank you definitely for that as well. I'll get to questions because I know you've got about 15 minutes here. So first question that I think is good to talk to you at the state level, SB 79. So for those of you on the call, you're probably mostly familiar with the one that calls for additional density around transit. Do you want to talk a little bit about what was passed, what, if you think, what impacts it might have on the area? And also, do you see it being amended, or when is it supposed to go into place? And I know, kind of how it came to be as its current form.
Yeah, great questions. And I apologize for the somewhat, I guess it's appropriate Halloween lighting that we have here in the car. So SB 79 is a bill that was pushed through that just squeaked through the legislature, by Scott Wiener, Senator Wiener from San Francisco, that basically seeks to upzone for housing areas close to transit, specifically rail transit and bus rapid transit. So that doesn't just mean regular bus stops; it means kind of dedicated bus lines similar to what they have on the Orange line up in the San Fernando Valley. So it's very specific. When originally written, by the way, it upzoned areas next to any regular bus stop, which was a pretty wild thing for Scott to have done. But it was reduced over time. That being said, I think that it's a bit too much of a one size fits all imposition of a planning approach that's going to impact all sorts of areas of Los Angeles. It doesn't go into effect until July of next year. So I think there are various aspects of the bill that are being closely examined, and I do anticipate some people trying to make some changes. I'm certainly interested in making some moderate changes, though I think it will be hard to make changes because Senator Wiener is pretty committed to the bill as is, and is pretty dug in, quite frankly, about what he sees as the benefits of the bill. I think this is an effort to try, from his argument, the state, and the public invests a lot in, public transit and rail transit, and that we need to have more transit-oriented development, and that we should, provide for more housing around train stations so that people, can live and then ride the train to work and et cetera. That's the concept, effectively. To the extent that there are going to be lines in your neighborhood, right? I mean, there's going to be the station at the VA. The bill does impact any the areas around any transit rail station, though it basically only impacts a half of a mile from the transit rail station. So, I don't think you're going to see and by the way, the areas of South Brentwood that are near the VA, at least the ones right along Wilshire, are pretty high. So, I don't think you're going to see a major impact in the neighborhood on SB 79. But it's certainly going to impact some other neighborhoods. I mean, there's the neighborhood around West Palms, for example, where there's an Expo line station. I think it's going to be impacted quite significantly. And one of the many things I'm concerned about with the bill, quite frankly, is that there will be neighborhoods that will be disinclined to support rail transit in their areas as a result, because they're going to be concerned about the issues of the requirements of SB 79 being applied to them. But again, I don't see the kinds of bus lines that go down Wilshire are not the kinds of lines that kick in SB 79. So I know there were some concerns from the group about that. That's not the case.
Terrific. No, thank you for the clarification. It looked like when I looked at the map anyway, that it could, that we're far enough from the D line on the VA that it would extend kind of the area from Barrington to Federal and north of Wilshire. But you answered the questions. A follow-up was going to be whether it's already zoned multifamily, if that was going to be a lot denser, or it's kind of, it's also built out already.
Yeah, so the requirements, so there are higher requirements for a quarter of a mile from a station, and then lower requirements for a half a mile from a station. So to the extent that folks are a half a mile from a station, I just don't know. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, right? Because we all know that there's going to be a station on the sort of the east side of the VA. You all see that construction happening. We'll have to go back and just look at exactly what that might mean for some of the buildings just north of Wilshire just on the west side of the VA campus. I just don't know if that's close enough to be triggered. I just don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But we'll have to go back and look.
I can, for anybody who wants to, email the info at South Brentwood, I can send you the link to the map. As I looked at it, it got the half mile, kind of made it to Barrington, and not very high above Wilshire. So let's move to another topic. Well, we're disappointed that you'll be turned out as state senator, but we understand that you've announced that you're going to run for insurance commissioner. We, fortunately in the Flats, we're impacted by the changes in fire insurance, not because we're in very high density fire zones, but we have had emails from people saying, well, we know that everybody's rates will probably go up, or at least I've read, as a result of the fire. So basically want to understand why you chose this office, I think, and what you see that should be changed, and why you think it was the right one to pick.
Yeah, well, I mean, the primary reason is because I'm clearly a glutton for punishment. It's a very difficult job. It's a very difficult job. I would never be running for this if it hadn't been for the experience of representing the Palisades in the wake of the wildfires. It was a really awful, difficult experience. I know for everyone on the call as well. So many of us have close friends and colleagues and that have suffered through that terrible experience. And my office has been very involved in so many aspects of the fire, and I've really got a chance to see so much of the dysfunction of our insurance system up close and personal. I mean, everything from the immediate help we were trying to provide to people that were trying to get insurance coverage basically get to the insurers to pay for the policies that they'd been paying for a long time. By the way, it's a very mixed bag. I mean, some insurers have behaved really honorably, others much less so. And so part of the job of the insurance commissioner is to cajole and to push and demand that insurers, actually pay out for the policies that people have been paying for. And one of the bills that I ran in the wake of the fires was requiring that the insurance companies pay for 100% of the contents coverage that people have paid for in the wake of a total loss of one's home. Unfortunately, that was knocked down by the insurance committee, but it's still going to be significant. At the very least now, it'll be 60% of the contents coverage, and then the rest of that you're going to have to itemize. But I suffered through this with people as they sat there trying to itemize all of these items that they'd lost, in having lost everything in their homes. You think about how traumatic that is. You're also having to relocate your kids and your home and your business and all these other things, and you're having to go through your photographs to remember what was in the living room and whether that was something that you need to add onto your itemization list just to get coverage, just to get paid for a coverage product that you've been paying for years. It's no way to run a railroad. So that's one of many challenges we've been helping people with. But beyond that, what does the rebuild look like? People can't rebuild their homes because oftentimes they're woefully underinsured, and in order to get the financing for the rebuild, they have to get insurance for their rebuilt property. So that's been a whole nother challenge. And as we've been looking at the rebuild, so much of our focus has looked at the questions of how do we rebuild in a more fire resilient way? How do we approach this problem as a state? As we all know, we're all having to pay more and more to help to deal with the challenges of this massive crisis. Our premiums have gone up writ large. There's a bailout of the FAIR plan, which is a woefully underinsured system. It's a bare bones insurance system. Don't think that if you're on the FAIR plan, you're basically getting the barest bones coverage that allows for you to continue to get a mortgage from Fannie and Freddie, which is which may work for people, but don't think that this is some really good coverage plan. By the way, if one of the many policies that I want to work on here is to say, if developers are looking to build in very high fire risk zones, if they can't get upfront insurance for those properties, ideally on a multi-year basis from the regular insurance industry, and they are looking to just rely on the FAIR plan for their insurance, those developments should not be built. Front and just period, full stop. There are actually some really innovative work underway now to build more fire resilient communities. I just went to Rancho. I went down to Escondido. There's a similar property in Rancho Mission Viejo that is utilizing state-of-the-art fire resilient building practices and vegetation management in the very high fire risk zones. And as a result, and by the way, they have very strict CCNRs. I mean, if you don't comply with their rules, they'll go in and force you to comply and charge you for it, which is rather draconian, and nobody loves to live in that kind of society. But the flip side is they've actually been able to get insurance rates that are thousands of dollars less than the neighborhoods near them. And they're able to live in beautiful, albeit very high fire risk zones because they're taking the measures necessary to dramatically reduce risk. That's going to be the kind of work we're going to have to do writ large. If I really reflected on the issues that give me most satisfaction on the professional side in my time in the legislature, it's working on really big, tough issues. A lot of environmental, right? Getting our big climate bond passed. I was the author of the bond Prop 4 that we just passed in November. That's plowing billions of dollars into wildfire resilience and water infrastructure improvements. I did the big plastics waste reduction bill that I remember talking to you guys about a couple of years ago. That was a very difficult multi-year process that ultimately struck a deal with the industry, but also the environmental organizations and the environmental justice people, the waste haulers, the cities, et cetera, to reduce all of our plastic waste. I did the TV film tax credit with Assemblymember Zabur. I did just recently a big bill on it's apparently the best pro-consumer bill for automobile purchasers that has been done in the country in the last 10 years. I just bring all these up to say I've worked on a lot of different topics, and what's really gotten me most excited is working on tough negotiations. That's what this is going to have to involve. Getting the insurance industry, working really hard on risk reduction so as to lower our wildfire risk, and in return, getting the insurance industry to step up and actually provide truly accessible, available, affordable, and meaningful insurance plans to regular people. That's the challenge. That's the difficulty. It's not going to be easy. I keep wondering whether it was a good idea personally for me to run for this, but it's meaningful, important, vitally important work, and that's why I'm doing it.
Great. We appreciate your service, and you sound like, well, you obviously know a lot about the area, and that all sounds terrific. Do you have time for one audience question?
Yeah. We're still driving, so we're okay.
Okay, just checking. I will hand it over to Elisa.
We're actually in Brentwood right now, so.
Oh, great. I've received following up on the insurance issue and the fire. Some of our attendees are from north of Sunset, and they're interested to know whether you support Zone 0.
So I don't support a draconian form of Zone 0, a purist form of Zone 0. I think there are elements of Zone 0 that we have to implement, but the Board of Forestry just came out with some very interesting options, which are much more nuanced than the original Zone 0 draft. And I think that's going to be where we're going to have to go. I think that we're just not people. Neither are people going to comply with, nor are people going to want to comply with the more draconian form of Zone 0 that just involves denuding everybody's properties. But I do think there are ways we can be smarter. One of the proposals amongst the recent options, option 4 of the Board of Forestry regulations, was to look at double painting windows, at cutting back on vegetation in certain more vulnerable places around the house, focusing on transitioning wood fence lines, transitioning people toward mesh, toward these new types of screens that prevent the entrance of embers into people's homes, focusing on changing out more flammable roofs, looking at less flammable vegetation, more a smarter. People being really conscientious about maintaining their vegetation in a smarter, more fire smart way. So I think that's going to be the type of fire safety vegetation management that I think we're going to be able to. I think it's better for people. It's going to be more implementable because more people are going to be willing to accept those kinds of terms. But I also think it's going to take a lot of education. Um, we're just going to have to get smarter. Those of us that live, closer to fire zones about the way about just fire culture, and so that's what I want to see come out of the Zone Zero conversation. I guess what I ask people to do: go look at the options that have been provided by the the Board of Forestry in the latest iteration. They just came out. They also look at focusing on more fire resilient native trees as opposed to some of the more flammable non-native trees that people have put in. It's those kinds of things that I think are going to the secret spot in implementing a vegetation management plan that people are going to feel good about, but that are also going to be meaningful for reducing our fire risk.
Great. I have one more question, also related to insurance, but this time it's health insurance. Because of our, have you found that there's been a problem because of our California state insurance that we've had, that there are drug rehabs trying to lure in patients from out of state? And is that a concern that you found? And then putting patients actually homeless, dumping them in our neighborhoods.
Did we lose signal there?
Maybe we did.
We lost signal. Oh, well. Okay, well, we knew he was getting to his event, so they come back in. Okay, well, I'm glad that we were able to come in.
Does Mr. Allen have a rep that is?
I think it was about the time that he's about to get to his event anyway.
Okay.
So we had till 7:35. So
Perhaps in the Q&A if we have one of his reps on.
yeah.
I'm on.
Oh,
So,
great.
yeah, so we can at the end, especially if Sophia can stay on, or otherwise if you can stay on after Tracy Park speaks, so that'll be at 8.
Yes, 8:30. Yes,
Okay,
I'll be on.
We'll have more questions and people can also email questions. So we'll move on with our agenda. Let's see. And so our next speaker is going to be Nick Robbins, who is the West Coast Regional Communications person for Metro. So let's get him up on screen.
Hello, can you see me? Can you hear me?
No, Matt Del Chico, can we get Nick on? There we go. Okay, thank you, Nick, for taking time out of your evening. I know you have a newborn at home. So
I do, 2-month-old, yeah.
Or maybe you'd be up anyway. So if we have a few projects, obviously Supervisor Horvath talked about Sepulveda Transit Corridor, but the other one we've all seen, lots of construction going on for the D line, the 2 stations. Can you give us an update on where they are, or what the status is? Are they on track? Any upcoming construction impacts, and any plans to get to those stations? And I'll get out of the way here.
Sure, yeah. So I think many people noticed potential conflict of construction with Caltrans coming up for this weekend, and just to reassure everyone that the decking removals at the Westwood UCLA station have been postponed until beginning Friday, October 31st at 11 p.m. So work is anticipated to end at 6 a.m. on Monday, November 3rd. So no conflict there. This work is going to require the closure of westbound Wilshire Boulevard between Veteran Avenue and Westwood Boulevard, as well as a reduction of eastbound Wilshire traffic to 2 lanes between Veteran Avenue and Westwood Boulevard. So the decking removal is anticipated to require up to 12 weekends of work. For the traffic control during this time, traffic on westbound Wilshire is going to be detoured at Westwood Boulevard to Santa Monica Boulevard. And the traffic control will be managed via portable, changeable message boards that will be located at various locations. Traffic is going to remain open, as I said, on eastbound Wilshire, but it's going to be reduced to 2 lanes. And since the eastbound Wilshire will be reduced, message boards are going to encourage motorists to utilize Santa Monica Boulevard via Sepulveda to avoid over congestion. The work hours for this removal will be, as I said, Friday, October 31st at 11 p.m. until Monday, November 3rd at 6 a.m. The hauling will take place, the hauling of decking panels, deck beams, backfill material, base, and asphalt will take place throughout the duration of that closure. Couple of other noteworthy items about this construction. So all work has received the necessary permits and approvals. Access for pedestrians will be maintained outside of construction zones. Access for emergency responders will be maintained at all times. Parking restrictions will be implemented in the immediate work zone area. So please make sure you check your signs. Check your parking signs over that weekend. And construction is dynamic. So, things could change. This is the most up-to-date information that I've received today about all of this. So if I get Lauren, if there's any updates that happen, if anything changes about that, I'll make sure to reach out to you, or my colleague Ned Racine will reach out to you to provide you an update on any changes. We do have a project information line that I'd like to share with everyone. The number is 213-922-6934. Once again, that number is 213-922-6934, and this is where you can call that number to get up-to-date information. You also asked me about the repaving Wilshire between Sepulveda and the VA.
Yeah, we had a request for, is that going to be done as part of the Metro's work?
So I heard today that the intersection at Wilshire Boulevard and Federal Avenue has already been repaved, and the Bonsall Avenue section, that repaving is not going to be happening until summer 2026.
Can you talk a little bit about when when will we have an open station at the VA, and is it on time, not on time, kind of up high level where
Yeah. So based on the information that I have, we are on schedule. So this means that sort of end of 2027, early 2028 is when that station will be open. The plan is to have it open for when we've got the Olympic Village set up at UCLA. So, it will definitely be opened by the time of the Olympics. But from what I understand, from what I've been told by the project team, we're on schedule to complete and open towards the end of 2027, early 2028.
And are there any plans yet? I know we've talked a little about this, but I want to make sure people are aware on how people are going to get to that station from our area without having thousands of Ubers and Waymos added onto our already gridlocked traffic.
Sure, yeah. Just so everyone knows, Lauren has been in contact with us at Metro as well as Council District 11 about concerns of overcongestion from Ubers, Waymos, going to that station. And we take this very seriously. I don't have any new information to share on that because we're having internal conversations about it. We've got, it's a multi-jurisdictional question. There's the VA, which is federal, there's supervisorial districts, there's 3 public transit agencies, Santa Monica Big Blue Bus, right around there, Culver City Bus, and Metro. So there's a lot of parties to coordinate with. This is something that we're having ongoing conversations about, Lauren, and I promise you that once the dial starts moving forward, I will keep you in the loop about any updates.
Okay, great. And just so people on the call know, we're setting up a task force for anybody in the areas who want to work on the issues of how people will get to the station the first and from the station. Um, great. So we have a couple of things, and I'll get out of your way so you can talk about them. Projects that we heard about and then we're not sure where they stand. So I'll just throw them both out and then you can address them both, and I'll get out of the way and let you wrap up. The one is making the fast lanes on the 405 through the Sepulveda Pass into toll lanes. That was talked about. Don't know if it's still in the discussion now that we have the Sepulveda Transit Corridor subway project. So interested in sort of your perspective. So far, South Brentwood, the board took a position of, we don't have a position on whether or not changing the lanes is good or bad, but we did say we don't want to see another freeway widening like we saw 10 years ago. So if there's any project that would require changing around the freeway again, both we and the Brentwood Community Council oppose that. And then the second project for you to address, and I'll get out of your way, is there was talk about a study to make all of the lanes west of, on the 10 west of the 405 into toll lanes, like make the entire road toll lanes during peak hours for congestion pricing, which would then, in our opinion, kick everybody into the neighborhood. That was a study. Don't know if anything is happening, but if you could sort of fill us in on the status of those two projects, we'd appreciate
Yeah,
it.
sure. Yeah. So as far as congestion pricing goes on the I-10 west of the 405, there is no new movement on this. The study is still ongoing. No decisions have been made. And I can assure you that, as the study comes to completion, just like with all metro projects, we will have an opportunity for community input. At this point, I have no information other than the fact that it is continuing to be studied and no other information has been released. As far as the 405 toll lanes, the environmental impact report has been postponed by 18 to 24 months, is what I've been told. And this is due to the need for additional studies. We're working with Caltrans to mitigate vehicle miles traveled. And this, we're looking at capacity increasing alternatives, which, one scenario is expansion of lanes, but there are several other scenarios that are being studied. No decisions have been made, and when the environmental impact report is released in 18 to 24 months, there will be a series of community meetings where everybody will be invited to share their opinions about what they would like to see done on that, as far as that goes.
Terrific.
I just have one or two other things I just want to quickly run through. Great.
Go through quick. We got another minute or two, and then we've got our next speaker lined up.
Great. I just want to touch on metro safety and what's been happening lately. I know that, it's an ongoing concern for people across LA County about what's happening with safety, but we've got, I think, a lot of good news as far as safety is concerned on Metro. So Supervisor Horvath mentioned that we've got a new chief of police at Metro. We've started a new Department of Public Safety, which includes Metro's own police. The big difference here is at that point, prior to this new department, we've been contracting with LAPD, LASD, and Long Beach Sheriff's Department as well. And they've been great partners. The opportunity to have our own police force gives us a certain level of nimbleness in our responses and in the way that we're able to act that I think is going to be incredibly positive. And that's going to be we're in the middle of that process which is being rolled out over 5 years. We've had across the board a reduction of crime. Crimes against persons have decreased by 10.7% in August 2025. This is when compared to August 2024, so 1 year ago, that's a 21% decrease. Crimes against property, when compared August 2024 to August 2025, crimes against property decreased by 4.4%. Crime arrests for crimes against society, so this is narcotics, trespassing, increased. So arrests have increased by 10.4% compared to previous months. And we have had, so in addition to those reductions, we've got our Metro Homeless Outreach Management Team, which referred 207 people to interim housing and placed 21 people into permanent housing in the month of August alone. And we've got our Metro Ambassadors, who are deployed on all rail lines. You may have seen them, bright green shirts. They're really there towards, to focus on cleanliness issues, graffiti, elevator and escalator problems to allow us to be more responsive. And the very last thing that I want to mention is in February, the Metro Board passed a motion to begin a station activation program. And the concept behind a station activation program is to reduce negative activity at our stations by increasing positive activity. So what that means is we're just at the beginning of the process, but we're looking to increase economic activity in the form of markets and craft fairs, stuff like that, cultural activity in the form of musical performances at our stations, and civic activity in terms of voter registration and other things. So the idea being that the more positive activity we create, the more eyes we have on our system, the less crime can be committed on our system, the more welcoming and vibrant our stations feel.
Excellent. I have one more quick question on this. And then we'll definitely move on.
I have one question too from.
Yeah, I think we should probably move on, but I just wanted to, while we're talking about the new D-line stations particularly, I know that the original lines were built with kind of the honor system. There's no gates to stop people that aren't paying from wandering on, but I did read that in some of the newer ones on the east side, they're putting gates in, and that's made a huge difference. Will the new stations that they're building here have gates to stop homeless people from wandering on in these stations and others who maybe shouldn't be on the lines?
All of the new stations, all of the new D-line stations will be built with what we call taller fare gates, which are the fare gates that don't allow you can't just leap over them. They're, it's big glass panels that open up for you when you have appropriate fare. So all of the new D-line stations will be set with that.
Terrific. So we will send you any questions. I know Lisa's got a couple that come in. We'll make sure they all get over to you unless I know with your schedule, I don't know if you can be on again at 8:30 and we can answer them then, but I don't want to keep you from your new baby.
Yeah, I gotta go relieve my wife, but thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No, we're terrific, and we look forward to working with you on the VA station as things.
Likewise.
Great.
All right, take care. Thank you. Bye.
Perfect. So let's see. Do we have Dr. Zhu lined up and ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, terrific.
Yes,
So
I'm here.
A quick intro. So for everybody on the call, so I heard about the studies being done, the LA Fire Health Study and several other ones that Dr. Zhu is working on, where as soon as the fires happened, Dr. Zhu will explain it better, but basically they're testing our air quality. And so I asked her to come on and explain what the studies are doing, and I know they're going to be long-term, and anything that you have as far as what you found so far. So I will get out of your way, and thank you so much. We really appreciate the update. I think this is something that a lot of people aren't aware is going on.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren, for the introduction, and thank you for putting up the slides. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yifang Zhu, Professor of Environmental Health Sciences at UCLA, Fielding School of Public Health. And as I listened to the early speakers, I was amazed by how many of the topics discussed today, LA 28, freeway expansion, increased traffic emissions in the neighborhood, are all closely connected to my research interests. So I'm so honored to be here today and share some of our ongoing work indoor-outdoor air quality during and after the LA urban wildfires, and to talk to all of you about we as a community, how can we work together to protect public health and support recovery. Next slide, please. When the LA fire broke out in January, they didn't just burn trees. They burned homes, cars, furniture, plastics. So they sent out a complicated mixture of pollutants into the air. And those pollutants include fine particulate matters. Those can go deep down to your lung, cause cardiovascular and respiratory health effects. And also gases known as volatile organic compounds or VOCs. And metals like lead, arsenic, chromium, all of those can really adversely affect our health. But even after the flame were gone, the story didn't really end there. Those harmful chemicals, they can stay in the air and can inside people's home because those damaged materials, they can keep releasing those pollutants back into the indoor air for weeks or even months. And on top of that, the debris removal and rebuilding activities could stir up lots of the settled dust, and those new construction activities can also bring additional emissions. So in short, people could still be exposed to pollutants long after the smoke cleared. Next slide, please. And as Lauren mentioned, our UCLA team began air sampling on the second day of the fire, just to help better understand what is the air quality, both inside and outside people's home. We collected samples from homes across Los Angeles. Those samples took place in 3 phases, as listed here. During the active burning phase is when the smoke filled the air. And during the second phase, we call it smoldering phase, is when the flame were gone, but materials are still emitting pollutants in the burn areas. And then the third phase is called off-gassing. This is weeks later when chemicals continue to seep from walls and furniture and debris and releasing gas phase pollutants back into the indoor environment. And after we collect those samples, we bring them back to our lab and we use advanced instruments to characterize volatile organic compounds, VOCs, and metals at each stage. Next slide, please. So one of the important group of pollutants that were looked at is called BTACs, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene. Those just toxic, air toxic compounds that are commonly found in smoke. And on this slide, you can see showing results from both the Palisade Fire and the Eaton areas. There are 2 bars for each home. The yellow bar shows the indoor level, and the blue bar shows the outdoor levels. And the number underneath each of those group of bars, they're really showing the sampling different phases. So you can see in several homes, especially those heavily impacted by smoke in the Eaton area, those indoor BTAC levels stay much higher than the outdoor levels, even weeks after the fires were ended. So this tells us those pollutants, they can persist indoors long after the outdoor air looks good. Next slide, please. We also analyzed the metal concentrations in the air sample we collect. Metals like arsenic, chromium, lead, those come from burning building materials, wiring, electronics, EVs, solar panels. And we also detected the potassium and phosphorus. Those are commonly found in fire suppressants, and they're really showing up in our sample. And as expected, those metal levels are very high during the active fire phase, but still measurable weeks later, both indoors and outdoors. So those results suggest that the importance of monitoring air quality even post the wildfires. Next slide, please. Another part of our study focuses on those soft goods. Those are things like children's toys, bedding, clothing. Those materials, they can absorb volatile organic compounds and slowly release them back into indoor air. As this map shows, we collect more than 100 atoms from homes in both the Palisade and the Eaton areas, and we compare them to atoms collected from unaffected homes that are about 10 miles away from any of those burn areas. Next slide, please. Here are some results showing 4 most frequently detected VOCs in those fire-impacted home atoms compared to those control homes. So those results, you don't need to worry about the little details in the plot, but the big message is those that we're seeing big differences, variations across different homes and also within the same home. And the variation comes from the type of materials, how close the homes were to the fire, to the burn area, and then where the items were stored. Like for example, we observed that, for example, items kept in closed cabinet had much less lower contaminations compared to those which left in open air in living room, And items stored outdoors, they already went through a lot of off-gassing, like airing out, actually showing lower levels of pollutants. So it's very interesting results, but those findings can help families to make some decisions about what items could potentially be saved, be cleaned, be mitigated, and what should really just be discarded. Next slide, please. So this is all about my research. My research is part of this larger multi-university collaboration called LA Fire Health Study, which involves more than 10 universities. So together, those investigators, we study both the environmental impacts and long-term health effects of the LA fire. And our team regularly publish data briefs called data briefs, as shown in the slide. The one data brief 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 are related to air quality, 4 and 6 are related to other environmental media. And those data are keep updated whenever we receive new research results. The LA fire also maintain an online Q&A, QAF, like question, frequent asked question website to keep the public informed as our new findings, new insights become available. Next slide, please. I'm also leading the air quality work for the Community Action Project, Los Angeles, CAP LA. One of our key efforts in the CAP LA is called CAP Air Network, which you can see on this map. It provides real-time pollutant data through a community-friendly dashboard, helping residents to make informed decisions like when to stay indoors or when to run your air purifiers. You can explore the data at the CAP Air website as listed on this slide. And you can even sign up to receive email alerts for a particular sensor that you want to keep an eye on or near your neighborhood. The system will automatically send alerts when the sensor is reading high levels, unhealthy levels of air pollutants. So I think this is a great example of how science and the community partnership can really empower some local action. Next slide, please. So our work has been featured in major outlets like Science, the New York Times, Bloomberg, and twice in Los Angeles Times. So this is really reflect both how important this research is and how much the public really cares about air quality after the LA fires. Next slide, please. So all of those has been made possible through the dedication for many UCLA students. I want to acknowledge them all here, and our community partners, and generous support from multiple funders listed on this slide. So to keep this work moving forward, for example, expanding the air quality monitoring network, conducting follow-up health studies, strengthening community resilience, we will need continued collaboration and support. And some of our traditional federal funding sources, as we all know, are uncertain at this point. So community partnership and local engagement are becoming even more important. Together, we can turn science into action, protecting families, improving indoor air quality, and building a healthier and more healthier Los Angeles for everyone. Thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions right now or stay in the Q&A section to take more.
Oh, that would be terrific if you have time and can come back at 8:30. Just we're trying to keep to the agenda. We have our councilwoman coming up and a few speakers. But if you can come on, then that would be terrific. And I understand if you can't, we'll certainly get you questions. But
sure, happy to do that.
At 8:30. But that was very informative, and thank you so much for presenting. I think it's a very valuable and important project for everybody to know about and for you to be doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get to, let's see, do we have Jaime Munoz on? Let's highlight him. Thank you, Jaime, for, let's see. I see him, so.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you're here. Matt Del Chico, we can get him on. Terrific. I will get out of your way because I know we have some slides too. So for everybody that's been wondering, what's the construction going on at San Vicente and Gorham? Jaime is your guy. So he will now explain what is going on at that intersection. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's get your slides up though.
All right. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jaime Munoz. I'm a civil engineer and the project manager for the Brentwood Walkability Project. Just a quick recap of the project. The project is funded through LA Metro Measure M program for $2.5 million for the design and construction. The intersections that we will be improving are Gorham and Montana. Streets LA and our partners at LA DOT and the Bureau of Street Services or the Bureau of Street Lighting will be delivering these improvements. The project is focused on improving pedestrian safety and accessibility. Next page. Now on to the updates. The project broke ground on September 15th at the intersection of Gorham. Currently, we are working on the southwest corner of Gorham. Construction will be continuing on the south side of the street and work towards the north side of the intersection. We are working with West Side City of Council of Governments and Metro to increase the construction budget by $1 million. This will allow us to fully complete the 2 intersections for this project. Now, onto the schedule. We are currently at Gorham, which we will call the phase 1 work. Currently, we don't have a start date for the Montana intersection. The plan is to complete the Gorham, then move to the Montana intersection. Next slide, please. On this slide, we are showing the improvements for the intersection of Gorham. We will have 11 new accessible ramps that will facilitate access and improve pedestrian circulation from one side of the intersection to the other. Currently, we are on the southwest corner, highlighted in yellow, addressing all the uneven surfaces and making the sidewalk ADA compliant. Next page, please. On this slide, we are showing the improvements for the intersection of Montana. For this intersection, we will have 11 new accessible ramps that will facilitate access and improve pedestrian circulation. We have also added 2 bus stop improvements on the south side of the intersection and some additional sidewalk work that has uplifts due to existing trees. Next slide. So on this slide, the picture on the left is an existing condition where the driveway and the crosswalk meet, creating an unsafe situation for pedestrians. The picture on the right is our proposed improvements showing a new ramp with a curb extension at the location of the existing driveway. This will create a safer and accessible pedestrian crossing. The new driveway will be shifted onto San Vicente. Next slide, please. The picture on the left shows the current typical situation at this intersection. There is no compliant curb ramps and the push button is not accessible from the path of travel for pedestrians. The picture on the right shows the proposed ADA compliant curb cut and the push button will be within arm's reach. We are excited to bring these much needed improvements to the Brentwood community. Thank you, and that concludes my updates.
One quick question, Jaime. When you're all done, will there also be less distance to cross so that it'll be a little bit easier for people? It looks like they're also extending, and I saw on your slide curb extensions.
Yeah, we are doing curb extensions where was possible, but we are not doing curb extensions on San Vicente. So existing travel lanes will remain, and we won't affect any of the bike lanes.
Got it. But it looked like Gorham, which is extremely wide and hard to get across, there'll be a little bit, it'll be
Shorter.
together.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the update. We look forward to seeing the completed work and future updates.
Thank you.
And now we have another quick update from Streets LA. So the San Vicente Walkability Project was actually initiated by the community 2017, where we sat down with LADOT and also the council office to see what improvements could be done. This is kind of the first phase, but we really are thrilled that it's getting started. And now we will talk a little bit, or I'll let Dan Halden talk about a project that was mentioned. This is funding came from Ben Allen's office to be able to improve the median itself. And we really appreciate your time, Dan. I know it's getting to be a late evening. But we'd love to hear more about the project. And then if you happen to be available at 8:30, and about 15, 20 minutes later, if there's any other questions that come up, we'll have general Q&A. If you can't stay then I understand there'll be other opportunities. And if people email us, we'll get you those questions that I will get out of your way and let you go through.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dan Halden. I am the Director of External Relations at Streets LA. We're the Bureau of Street Services, which is one of the 5 public works bureaus of the city of LA. And I will echo what Lauren said. So this is, I want to appreciate Jaime's time for talking to you about the San Vicente Walkability Project. We are not trying to confuse anybody with multiple projects on San Vicente with similar names. This is the San Vicente Median Greening project. And we, if anyone from Senator Allen's office is still on, we very much appreciate the funding from Senator Allen, about $1.2 million in total, that will allow us to move, that is allowing us to move forward with this. This is going to be a very, very brief overview, similar information that was presented at our most recent community update meeting, which was back in August. I do want to let everyone know that we are planning a fuller project update along with CD11. That's probably going to be in mid-November or so. We want to do it before Thanksgiving and certainly not running right up to Thanksgiving. As soon as we have a date and time, we will make sure that everyone knows, and everyone will be more than welcome to that. So anything that you don't get now, which again, we're just scratching the surface, we will provide at that time. And I really can't emphasize enough, the CD11 staff and Councilmember Park herself have just been really, really, really strong advocates for you in general, and on this project in particular. We can go to the next slide, please. So just to make sure that everyone is clear what median or what location we're talking about, these are 3 medians on San Vicente Boulevard from Montana to Darlington, excuse me. This is really a landscaping project. What is not part of the scope are any new trees to be planted. That is not part of the scope for this project. What we're primarily talking about here, and you can go to the next slide, please, gives you an example of the landscaping, the plant palette, the things that we're going to be looking at. I apologize if it's a little small or blurry. All of this information is also available on our website in much fuller form, more exciting form. And that's streets.lacity.gov. That's our main website. And then we have a projects tab with lots of different things that we're working on throughout the city, including this project. But we're talking about drought-tolerant landscaping, shrubs, ground cover, high-efficient irrigation systems. So the existing irrigation system that is on these medians, that is going to be replaced. The very, like water guzzling turf and grass will be replaced for something that is far more environmentally friendly and sustainable. We can go to the next slide. So this is just a little snapshot of our project timeline. Right now, this project is in the design phase. And as we get into 2026, we're going to be bidding and awarding a contractor. And then by the early-ish, city timelines are always exactly 100% correct. By the early-ish part of 2027 is when we expect the construction on it to be completed. So I know that is, you can go to the next slide, which is the final one that I have. Again, this is in much fuller form. We're really looking forward to a more comprehensive update for you and everyone in Brentwood. And Lauren, you certainly have my commitment that as soon as CD11 and Streets LA figure out what that date and time and everything is going to be, we will make sure that we send the details to you. And yes, thank you for sharing that link. That is the link to the direct page on our website. It has a really nice interactive story map, which has far more of these details. I really appreciate your time.
Terrific, and thanks so much for making the time to come out here. We look forward to having more information, and now everybody has the chat, the link as well. So terrific. So let's get our final speaker up. I see I'm just admitting her to the room here. So this will be our Councilwoman Tracy Park. So we'll put her up on screen and I'll take it away from there.
All right. Can you hear me, Lauren?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you. You're
All
not
right.
the first
Fancy.
person who's like, I know you've got a lot going on. I think all the, Supervisor Horvath, Ben Allen, and you are all busy, busy, busy. But we appreciate your making the time. So everybody, as they know, this is our wonderful councilwoman who, it's hard to believe it was only 2 years ago that you were elected, because I'm sure you've had in dog years, like 10 years. So I will sort of so we had some questions sent in, and then I know everybody at the end will always have lots and lots of questions, but I will at least kick off. The big thing that we get all the time is homeless encampments. Michael Amster has been terrific from your office. Every time we call, he says, we're working on it, we're working on it. But we know we have a lot of problem areas like Wilshire and Westgate that seem to pop up again and again. And I know that you're working on legislation to make it easier to get rid of some of those. So wanted to let you sort of talk about all the things you're doing to change legislation and move things forward and hopefully a little faster. So I will get out of your way and let you talk.
Well, Lauren, thank you very much for the setup. And yeah, definitely homelessness remains the top of mind issue for everybody all over the West Side and frankly, all over the city. So we could probably spend the entire night just talking about homelessness, the work that we have done and that we are doing on it. But given our limited time this evening, let me just sort of give you the executive summary. Just to set the table, everybody will remember the condition of the district when I took office in January of 2023. There was not a neighborhood on the West Side that wasn't impacted by large scale, sprawling, chaotic, dangerous, unregulated encampments. And through very, very diligent, strategic, determined, intentional actions, we have coordinated across our embedded resources and tried to bring the leadership in the direction that was needed to addressing the most acute problems on the streets. We have done homeless encampment interventions now that have successfully resulted in housing over 800 people that were previously living in tents and vehicles on the streets of the West Side. That is more encampment interventions and people successfully moved into safer settings than we saw in Council District 11 in the prior decade combined. So we have done that work very strategically and methodically. And we have very few no large scale tent encampments at all. We have some persistent pockets. And there are many reasons that contribute to it. But we have been so successful overall with our intervention strategies that everybody that wanted help, that was well enough to say yes to help, we already got them. And we are currently dealing with the folks who are left on the ground in CD11, very high acuity cases. You see what I see when you drive by those remaining encampments, and a lot of it's moving around at this point. And that's a lot of behavioral health issues, addiction and mental health. And there are some folks out there that just don't want to go. And frankly, between my resources, the mayor and her Inside Safe team, the partnerships that we have built, most of the folks out there at this point have been offered and offered and offered and offered an alternative. And where the law has not caught up yet are the policy tools that are necessary to force the issue with some folks that may not be well enough to accept help when it's offered. And that's one of the legislative areas where I am trying to move the needle. We are getting closer and closer to our compliance with the LA Alliance settlement agreement, which should open up pathways to our ability to have more effective tools in addressing the remaining encampments. The tools that I have available to me, I have been very, very liberal in my use of. For example, our city's Safe Schools and Parks Ordinance. That section 4118 of our municipal code, it allows me to bring a motion that I have to get votes, the majority of votes in council to pass, that can exclude tent encampments. Tents, RVs are a different issue, and I'll talk about that separately in a second, around schools, parks, daycares, libraries, and homeless shelters. So the day I took office, we automatically put 4118 into effect around every school. For the others, I have to go in and make those legislative findings and get the votes to pass individual resolutions to protect every new area that we do. We now have more than 50 designated 4118 zones, including many in Brentwood and including around the VA. We are rolling out a suite of those new 4118 protections to help on some of those corridors and some of those persistent places, Lauren, that you just mentioned. We're using some different strategies, focusing more on public safety at this point, because if the encampment isn't near a school, park, daycare, library, or homeless shelter, I don't have that tool available unless I can make legislative findings on public safety, which is another reason I want to plug to folks on this call. If you are aware of crime related to a homeless encampment, that can be fires, fights, break-ins, drugs, things like that, reporting and making those reports is what gives me the data source that I need to do those findings. So we're in the process of rolling those out, and I'll leave it to Michael to brief you more specifically on which intersections and locations we have in the pipeline for those protections. So more to come for South Brentwood on some of those areas that we're going to be rolling out. In the meantime, Michael and I and the team will continue to deploy the resources that we have to do the interventions with the tools that we have. The vehicle dwelling is actually by now the larger problem overall in the district. And that has been more difficult to solve. For one thing, people who are homeless and living in vehicles, particularly in the RVs, don't want to give them up to go into interim housing, which at this point in LA is primarily interim motel rooms. From their perspective, in many cases, not all, but many, that vehicle is their home. It's where their belongings are, their pets. In some cases, it may provide mobility for them. In many cases, we know these vehicles couldn't conceivably pass a basic operability or safety or environmental inspection if it tried. But for some people, it is a means of mobility. And so we've brought on a new service provider that we have been working with. We just successfully completed an RV encampment intervention. This is over in Playa Vista near Westside Neighborhood School. And we are now looking to expand those services and operations to other pockets where we have the vehicle dwelling. There are a bunch of other challenges with it. We continue to be mired in litigation alleging that enforcement of parking restrictions somehow criminalizes homelessness. We also have the issue with the van lords, and these are people who buy the junker RVs and then rent them out to people on the streets. They create these RV encampments and the blights in our neighborhood, and because of the way state law has been, I can go out and have a vehicle impounded, and if that vehicle has more than $500 worth of value, it has to wait out 30 days for the owner to come collect it, and then it gets referred over to the auction block. And that's how a lot of these junker RVs end up staying in circulation. I can tow it, but it is cheaper for the van lord, the owner, to wait out the 30-day impound and then go repurchase it off the lot. So I've got one van lord. We have actually towed one RV multiple times. That one particular stupid RV keeps ending up back on the street. But good news. One, my van lord ordinance shutting this practice down on our commercial streets is now with the city attorney's office. We should have that back soon. We had to send it back to add some more enhanced penalties to it. So that's a good thing, but that'll be back soon. And secondly, Assembly Member Mark Gonzalez did us a huge solid and carried a piece of legislation in Sacramento that changes that value amount up to $4,000. So now when a vehicle gets impounded, if the value is less than $4,000, not just 500, 4,000, we can actually, instead of referring the vehicle over to the auction lot where it ends up back in circulation, we can immediately send those to the recycler. So that's going to help us cut down on the inventory where a lot of these vehicles that show up on the roads are coming from. All of that said, is a very long-winded answer to your question, Lauren, about why we have some of these persistent pockets left. One, it's an acuity level that we just don't have the legal tools to address the mental health and the addiction challenges. We are making major investments in that as a council office. We are putting together a program directly with DMH to bring higher level services into places like Inside Safe, which is not an ideal setting for some of these higher acuity cases. It isn't. You all see what I see, right? Someone that is sick and suffering and dying on the side of the road needs a doctor and a hospital. But those are not the types of long care interventions that we have available. So while we build that infrastructure out, we are putting together the stopgap measures that we can. So that's a very big executive overview of the quagmire that is homelessness, but the progress is real. We have had double-digit drops year after year in CD11, and we have actually had, I know it doesn't feel like it, but a 40% drop in vehicular homelessness. So I am going to continue tackling this with the same energy and diligence that it requires, and we're going to keep doing this work until we have this problem solved, Lauren.
Great, thank you so much for the explanation. I will throw out one more question, and then I will let Elisa pick up the additional Q&A. Technically, we told everybody the meeting would be done at 8:30, but we would keep asking questions. So I'll do the last official one is sort of the related topic that we hear about again and again, which is crime. I know there's some things that your office can do, and then a lot that Matt Curtin, LAPD can do, but wanted to hear about some of the things you're doing. Maybe people on the call aren't familiar with the flock camera program that you have for South Brentwood, but in addition to that, what other things are you doing about crime?
Yeah, so great question, and thank you for that. We have just had a consistent issue, especially with property related crimes. The residential burglaries and break-ins, you see that a lot in our apartment communities, especially with garages and bikes, thefts from motor vehicles and things like that. Those crimes have skyrocketed, and we know they are underreported. And so a few comments and thoughts about all of this. First, our staffing at LAPD is, in my view, at dangerously, critically low levels. We are going to fall to about 8,600 sworn police officers by the end of this year. For a city of 4 million people, it's not enough. And everywhere I go on the West Side, I hear constantly, how do we get more police in our neighborhood? There aren't any more police to put in your neighborhood. There are physically not bodies and more cars. We have been very, very generously supported with surges of additional resources, and we have had plenty of that in Brentwood, but it's temporary, and it's usually in response to a particular rash of burglaries or an incident that has happened. And so LAPD has been very generous when we have needed that, but it is not the consistent presence that frankly serves as the best deterrent to crime. So we are looking to supplement with technology, and it's a stopgap measure, but it can be really helpful. So at the end of last year, I did a press conference. I made a big announcement with our new DA, Nathan Hockman, and our police chief, Jim McDonnell, we invested significant discretionary dollars from the council office in building out an automated license plate reader camera system district-wide. We've invested in 200 of those cameras that will be placed at points of ingress and egress around Council District 11, as well as some embedded within the district. So that if you have a vehicle that has a felony warrant or other actions attached to the vehicle, or that car is known to have been involved in crime, that will automatically ping and alert police to the presence. If there is an ongoing incident, those cameras can be used for situational awareness. They are also a tool that police can use later to go back if they need evidence to help with investigating, making arrests, and prosecutions. In addition to that, I have put forth legislation that has now been approved by the city council to expand our real-time crime centers to all 21 of our police divisions. West LA division, which covers South Brentwood, is next in line to get their real-time crime center. That is a combination of technology tools, in particular, high-quality networked cameras. So we're already going to have the 200 license plate readers, but what we're doing with our communities around the West Side is getting everybody networked on flock cameras that LAPD can have access to. It will not be monitored in real time, but there will be an available live feed for LAPD to plug into if you all want to participate, that will make them have visibility into your community in the event there is a situation that is either unfolding in real time, and again, as a source of evidence in the event they need to go back. And part of the reason I wanted to do this and build out this community-based piece of the infrastructure now is so that when the Real-Time Crime Center comes to West LA Division, you all will be set up and ready to participate in it. You all remember the horrific rapes and murders that occurred in the Venice canals. The reason LAPD was able to so quickly apprehend and arrest, and now is it convicted and spending the rest of his life in jail where he belongs, that perpetrator, is because of the technology evidence. And stitching together local cameras, both from the business corridor and then into the residential canals neighborhoods, the police were able to track the movements of this individual and capture the evidence that they needed for that outcome in that criminal case. And so we've seen the value that evidence can, or that those tools can provide to the community. So we're working on building out that system for you guys in South Brentwood. I think putting up the notification signs around the community that there is ongoing surveillance can help with the deterrent effect. So that is couple of the things that we're working on with LAPD. You may have seen my speech on the budget vote this year. I voted no on it because of the lack of investment in public safety and crime prevention. And I am going to keep fighting every day in City Hall to get us the public safety resources that we need. We can't tolerate crime levels the way they're at. We have chipped away at our criminal justice system to the point that misdemeanors aren't really crimes anymore. Even if you did get arrested for a misdemeanor, there's no bail and there's no jails to put people in anymore. So we have, unfortunately, through bad legislation over many years, made it almost impossible for the police and prosecutors to do their job, especially on lower level offenses. Thank God we have a new district attorney who is really turning the tide in the DA's office. We have a great new police chief who is bringing at least a new sensibility and understanding of what people in LA want, which is safe communities. You want to be able to come home at the end of the day and know your home hasn't been broken into, your bike is still going to be where you left it, and that it's safe to let your kids go to the local park. And unfortunately, over the last decade, as you all know, we have just seen so much of that slip away. And I have always been a big believer that keeping LA safe starts with investing in the public safety resources we need. So I'm going to keep fighting for all of those things.
Okay, Elisa, you're spotlit. Thank you, Councilman Park. We'll get to questions coming in from the audience now. And for everybody else on the call, I've listed the other reps who are on the call if you have questions for them.
Great.
But first, I'll ask some of the ones for Councilwoman Park.
Great, thank you, Councilwoman Park. One question that's come in is we understand that the LA City Council is considering the first in 40 years a major overhaul of the rent stabilization ordinance, in particular limiting the annual increase from 10% to 5% or lower. Already development of new rental units is significantly down because developers feel it's no longer economically viable to be landlords here. And the small landlords have been priced completely out of the market due to the situation where the expenses continue to go up dramatically, but the rents do not. So what is your position on this? And how do we strike a balance here?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And, here over the last 3 years in the city of LA, we have undertaken some of the most expansive changes to renter protections that we have done in a generation in LA. And so I'm really proud of some of the work that the city council has done on that front, but we have not always done a good job of the policies being balanced. And you saw a lot of this, especially during the pandemic, where a lot of that financial burden got put onto the backs of our housing providers. And that other challenges with costs and fees, their utilities and insurance and repair fees have continued to skyrocket. And frankly, there have been, periods of years now where they weren't even allowed to collect rent at all, much less raise rent. And so it has just created a cascading series of circumstances that in many ways are compounding the problems. So we already know that producing new housing that can help drive rental rates down is stifled by a difficult regulatory and tax environment. And so that's not getting us the housing that we need and keeping it at affordable levels either. I think with the RSO, we want to be careful about it because here's what happens. On the West Side in particular, and not all parts of the city are equal when it comes to this, and we have unique challenges on the West Side. Cost of development in general makes it difficult for projects to pencil. The cost of carrying a loan and a mortgage and the interest rates being what they have been over these last 5 years, the cost of operating any business, including a rental housing business, make it more and more difficult. And when you put market pressures like that, particularly on a mom and pop landlord, and what passes in most cases for affordable housing on the West Side are older buildings, many of which are owned by families and immigrants. They are small businesses. They cannot compete with the big corporate apartment owners and developers. And so when they end up in a situation where they can't pencil their costs and they can't carry the mortgage and they have no choice but to sell or end up in foreclosure, you've got those big corporate landlords that come in and gobble those distressed properties up. And what do? They knock them down and they build more market and luxury rate housing. And that has been a chronic cycle over many, many years where we have lost and not adequately replaced existing rent stabilized housing. And so while we have tried to accommodate that by building new housing with affordability covenants and some percentage of AMI criteria is baked into it, it has created a challenge with affordability here on the west side. So I do think it's important that we, put caps in place. I think renters deserve some predictability. We know what the wage situation is in Los Angeles. I don't know what other people's personal economy is. Mine sucks. But you know, in part why your rent is so damn high? It is because landlords are using good tenants as insurance policies against the bad approaches that have driven them to the brink in the housing market in Los Angeles. So between our citywide housing incentive program and the development around that, obviously SB 79 is the law of the land now. Very, very concerned about some impacts for South Brentwood in particular. It may be a driver to housing development, but I don't know that it's going to solve the affordability problem or the rent predictability that our renters need. And it's certainly not going to do anything to help small housing providers or our local builders. It's going to be a heyday for the big corporations that can afford to build and develop in LA. And I worry about that.
Great, thank you so much for that explanation. We have one more question that's come in, and that is just, we have a resident that just wants to make sure that the flock cameras will be used for local use and that not for use by the federal government.
100%.
ICE.
Yes, yes. Valid concern. Appreciate you raising it. No, there are very, very strict controls in place about where and how that data can be used and whether and under what circumstances it would ever be communicated to anyone. And we are very, very mindful of the rights of our communities here in Los Angeles and not putting data into the hands of ICE and other federal agencies who we worry will misuse it.
Well, I think that at this point in time, I think we need to move. I thank Councilwoman Park for her valuable time and excellent and informative information. And I would like to move to adjourn the regular meeting and move on to the question and answer portion.
Lovely to have you. I will sign off and let you carry on with your meeting then. Thank you so much for having me, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in person soon. Reach out to me and my team anytime you have any city-related issues. We are always here to help.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, have a good night. We'll see you soon.
Well, do we have Matt Kirk on the line still?
Yes, I'm still here.
I have quite a few questions for
Okay.
Officer Kirk. So we have a question about use of porta potties by construction crews. So we have, there's a lot of construction going on in South Brentwood, and the question is, where can the construction crews put the porta potties? Can they put them in alleys? And there is a concern that alleys are being used for the porta potties, and that then those porta potties lure homeless persons, unhoused persons who are using the porta potties and creating a public safety issue.
Usually the porta potties should be, if they're doing construction, for example, on a commercial property or an apartment building, it should be placed on the property that's being under construction. And if, say, it's in a carport on the property of an apartment building, what I suggest is at night, the construction or the foreman or whoever should place a lock on that porta potty. So at night it's not being used, because that's an attraction to unhoused people if they see a porta potty there, whether to use it as a bathroom or to use it to do drugs inside the porta potty. So a porta potty can't be just placed in an alley. It should be placed on the private property of the place that's under construction.
And where, if they are in the alley, because there's a report of several right now in South Brentwood, they're in the alley. Who should they report that violation?
I mean, they could email me and I can go out to the property. They could also email CD11 Michael Amster, the field deputy. You could also email him. What I would do is, obviously I'm not here every day. Like, this is my 6th day in a row working, so I'm going to be off for 3 days. So if anybody emails me, it'd be best to put if it's in a rear alley, the address of where it is, and maybe take a photo and send that to me to my email, and then I can go out. I'll be back on Monday and I can go out, find out who the contractor is, and make sure they get that out of the alley. Because you can't store stuff in an alley that's public access right away. They have to put either on the private property or the commercial property that they're doing the construction at.
Another question that's come up is there are parties that are unlicensed that are participating in the farmers market without authority. And is there anything that can be done to prevent these unlicensed?
What do you mean? There's people that I don't understand, a private party at the farmer's market?
They're saying that there are actually businesses that are setting up at the farmer's market that don't belong there.
That would be
adjacent.
Whoever's in charge of running the farmer's market. They would have to be the ones that would, if somebody hasn't paid to have a booth there, they'd have to be the ones that say, hey, you haven't paid the fee, because all those farmers market participants pay a fee to be there every Sunday. So if somebody's there without a permit, then whoever's running it has a sheet on who paid, who didn't pay, and then they'd have to go over to them and tell them, hey, we don't have you on here that you've paid to have a booth at the farmer's market. And then if they didn't want to leave, then they could call the patrol officers to go out there and deal with them at that point.
For what it's worth, and this is Michael with Council in Tracy Park, we have in our office a very good relationship with the manager of the Brentwood Farmers Market, who runs other markets throughout our district. So reaching out to us and giving us some particularity or specifics on which vendors we're concerned about, we can be helpful here as well.
And then also on the topic of the farmer's market, this has come up before, is the concern about the litter and trash that is often there and not taken care of. That might be something else to raise as well, Mr. Amster.
Yeah, so for litter, that's something that I send our CD11 beautification out, our team for beautification out to San Vicente a lot. For myself, our beautification team is throughout the district, but I'm able to send them to only so many locations each week, and locations in Brentwood, especially San Vicente, is top of mind. I send them there out as much as I possibly can. Now, as most, if not all of us know, there's a bit of a change that has happened along the San Vicente Trail by the farmers market, which could very well change the character of litter and things of that nature. But we're going to keep sending the beautification team out there and picking up trash and debris as much as possible, both by the farmers market and throughout Brentwood and throughout the district.
Okay, and one other question was a concern about slowing traffic on Barrington. Is there anything can be done? This is for
what part of Barrington? I mean, when I have traffic issues, I usually reach out to our motor officers for enforcement, because patrol these days is so busy with patrol calls that they don't have time. Like when I was in patrol, it was a lot slower, so we had time to sit at intersections when we weren't answering radio calls to monitor speed, stop signs, stop lights, and issue citations. So if there's an area where there's speeding, I don't know if it's between, I would assume it's between Wilshire and San Vicente, since that's part of South Brentwood. Is it a certain time of day? Because
It was a general question, and
I mean, I could have motor officers do extra patrol in that area. The hard thing with that is certain areas are laser certified where they've done what they call a survey, like San Vicente, they could shoot laser on San Vicente. Barrington, because there's so many lights and, you know, crosswalks, I don't know if that's certified to do laser. They could just monitor and do estimation on speed, but most likely if they're there, they're probably going to get people doing other stuff like not yielding to pedestrians and crosswalks or at unmetered intersections. But I could let our motor officers know about that.
thank you.
Mhm.
Is
One thing
Amanda,
that I just may add for whatever it's worth. So the whole stretch of Barrington throughout Brentwood is something the council office, it has our attention, and where we have opportunities to make things safer, that's what we do. Over a year ago, we adjusted the traffic signal pattern for the crosswalk at the Barrington Rec Center. It used to just be red and green, and we adjusted it to create a flashing that that forced cars to stop. It changed the pattern there. So wherever we have the opportunity to work with DOT or LAPD to address traffic throughout, that's what we do.
great. Thank you for that clarification. Amanda, are you here? Great. We had quite a few questions for Senator Allen that we didn't get to. One of the questions.
Oh wait, that's Sophia. Sophia is
Oh,
Senator Allen. I'm the Supervisor Horvath. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Hi, I'm on. I'm happy to answer those questions.
My apologies. One of the questions related to insurance, health insurance, and the question was whether or not our drug rehabs trying to lure out-of-state patients because we have better insurance here, and then there's a concern that then after attending the drug rehab, there are unhoused addicted persons that are being dumped in Los Angeles. Have you found that to be an issue, or is that a concern related to luring out-of-state residents through our insurance system?
So most health insurance is through the federal government. So the California Department of Insurance doesn't necessarily deal completely with health insurance, but we have heard about this and we have brought it up with our federal partners to ensure that this doesn't happen, especially with rehabs that are maybe unscrutable, that are kind of luring people with these stories of that they can get a very cheap rehab, and when they get to LA or get to California, there aren't actually options for these people. So we are actively looking at this and seeing if there's any sort of state legislation that we can work on to improve, make sure that we make sure that our rehab facilities are not luring people falsely.
Thank you. That sounds very helpful. Another question we have is in terms of the follow-up to SB 79, which Senator Allen discussed. And there was a comment by one of our residents that whether the sponsors of SB 79 took into consideration that most people who take public transit also have a car. So they wondered, why that if that was taken into consideration or thought when SB 79 was passed.
I'm not sure. Again, Senator Allen did not support SB 79. And there are intricacies. I'm not sure about like what the person who brought up this question means by like if they mean parking or if they mean that they also have a car. But certainly we want to ensure that parking is not eliminated in areas where needed, but we also want to make sure that people can use and are encouraged to use public transportation so that those are more accessible.
Another couple of questions concerned Edison and the fire risks through the utilities. And one of the questions was if there we understand that underground utility power lines is one of the single most effective ways to mitigate wildfire risk, and we're wondering if there are any specific actions that could be taken to ensure that utilities like LADWP and Edison make investments to do underground power lines.
Yes, so we completely agree. And in parts of the Palisades that were burned, they have already started to underground those lines, and we are looking at ways that we can increase funding so that they can continue undergrounding in high-risk areas where it is feasible. Now, again, it's not always feasible. As I have learned, if you put those all of those power lines underground and cover it with concrete, if there is a mistake, you have to dig up that concrete to get to them to fix it. So it can be, it's really where it is appropriate. We are looking at how we can ensure that those undergrounding is happening and encouraging that. Senator Allen helped allocate a lot of money through Prop 4 that can help for fire mitigation. And we're looking to see if there's other ways that we can increase funding so that undergrounding is part of those plans.
Well, thank you very much for that clarification. That's really most of the, we've covered pretty much all the questions that have been asked. And I think at this point in time, I thank all of you for attending and all the speakers. And the meeting has been very productive, and we appreciate all of the questions and input from the attendees. Lauren, do you have anything more to add?
I'll just add, if we have questions that we haven't gotten to, or if you have other questions, we will get them over to all of the various speakers. So feel free to keep emailing questions and we'll make sure.
And we may want to talk about the exit poll at this point.
Oh, when you sign off on Zoom, you will see a poll, which we'd appreciate you filled out about how you like the meeting and the speakers, so we know for next year. I don't know enough about how Zoom works to know if it's getting late now and you don't want to answer now, whether it'll still be there tomorrow, but we can send it to you later if you'd like. So thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you so much, and have a good evening.